Are you at all concerned that giving millions of people $25,000 each is going to raise the house prices even more?
Um,
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Madam Vice President. Are you okay? You look really nervous. It's okay. You don't need to be worried. I'm not going to fact check you or push back on any of your answers, just like we did at the debate, right?
Thank
By
you.
the way, do you have your special earrings on today?
Of course.
Okay, then let's get started. I know that you're really good at saying a lot of words without actually saying very much at all. You are terrific at talking and talking without ever answering the question. So, having said that, what are two or three very specific policies that you plan to implement to help make the cost of living more affordable for Americans today?
Well, I'll start with this. I grew up a middle class kid. My mother raised my sister and me. She worked very hard.
I thought that after your parents got divorced, you moved to Quebec. Your mom took you and your sister, and you lived in Westmount, a suburb of Montreal, which is highly regarded as a very affluent suburb of the city. In fact, it's listed as one of the most expensive cities in all of Canada.
I grew up in a neighborhood of folks who were very proud of their lawn. You know,
Okay, I'm not really sure what that has to do with anything, but please continue.
my mother raised my sister and me. She worked very hard. She was able to finally save up enough money to buy our first house when I was a teenager. I grew up in a community of hardworking people, construction workers and nurses and teachers. And I try to explain to some people who may not have had the same experience, but a lot of people will relate to this. And I was raised to believe and to know that all people deserve dignity, and that we as Americans have a beautiful character. We have ambitions and aspirations and dreams, but not everyone necessarily has access to the resources that can help them fuel those dreams and ambitions.
It's really cool how you do that. You can, as my grandma used to say, talk a cat off a fish wagon, and yet you don't actually say anything. You talked for 2.5 minutes and didn't answer the question. It's actually very impressive.
Thank you.
It's very interesting how you didn't ramble at the debate. You didn't have any word salad moments. You actually stayed on topic pretty well. I would even venture to say that that was the best public performance that I've seen you give since you decided to run for president back in 2020.
Thank you.
It's almost like the deck was stacked in your favor, wouldn't you say?
I try to explain to some people who may not have had the same experience, but a lot of people will relate to this.
Madam Vice President, it has been 2 months now since you announced your candidacy. Since you are now so confident in your public speaking skills, why is it that you have not done a single press conference yet where you could take live questions from the audience?
It's just actually not attainable.
Understood. But I really want to know how you're going to bring prices down since prices have gone up considerably in the almost 4 years since you and Biden took office.
I can't say it.
Well, that certainly inspires confidence. Let's move on. You've been talking a lot about your opportunity economy. What exactly does this entail?
So, when I talk about building an opportunity economy, it is very much with the mind of investing in the ambitions and aspirations and the incredible work ethic of the American people, and creating opportunity for people, for example, to start a small business. My mother, worked long hours, and our neighbor helped raise us. We used to call her, I still call her, our second mother. She was a small business owner. So my opportunity economy plan includes giving startups a $50,000 tax deduction to start their small business. It used to be $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000.
Excuse me for interrupting, but I just want to clarify something. A tax deduction is not a grant. It is not money that you get up front. It is something that you get when you file your tax return next year.
But investing in people's innovative ideas and giving them the ability to go for it. Opportunity economy means, look, we don't have enough housing in America.
So help me understand how this allows me to start a business with $50,000 from the government. a year or more after I created my
And
business.
I'm not the only leader in this.
I figured as much, since you've been, as you love to tell us, a career prosecutor and you haven't really ever been a small business owner.
Enough of that. Let's bring everybody together.
You're right, silly me. You are the epitome of unifying this country with your olive branch tweets. In fact, here are some tweets that you put up within a 5-day period recently, and nothing helps unite the country like these wonderful messages.
Catch up to the 21st century.
Let's turn now to housing. How do you plan to make housing more affordable for the American taxpayers?
We don't have enough housing in America. We have a housing supply shortage. And what that means, in particular for so many younger Americans, the American dream is elusive. It's just actually not attainable.
I absolutely agree. Do you feel that the policies that you and the president have put into place have anything to do with the high cost of housing?
Well, I'm obviously not Joe Biden. And, I offer a new generation of leadership. And so, for example, thinking about developing and creating an opportunity economy where it's about investing in areas that really need a lot of work and maybe focusing on, again, the aspirations and the dreams, but also just recognizing that at this moment in time, some of the stuff we could take for granted years ago, we can't take for granted anymore.
So, your plan for making housing more affordable is?
My goal is 3 million new homes by the end of my first term. In addition, to help people who just want to get their foot in the door, literally. And so giving first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance to be able to just get in the door, and then they will do the work they need to do to save and to pay that mortgage and to build wealth for themselves and their family.
Are you at all concerned that giving millions of people $25,000 each is going to raise the house prices even more and inflate our $35 trillion debt even further?
I can't say it.
Okay, then, sounds like a solid plan to me. Tell me, what do you plan to do for parents who are struggling financially?
For example, another plan that I have that is a new approach is to expand the child tax credit to $6,000 for young families for the first year of their child's life, because that is obviously a very critical stage of development of a child. And a lot of young parents need the help to buy a car seat or a crib or clothes for their kids. And so
I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but I do not think that means what you think it means. A tax credit is given the following year when someone does their tax return. And just because they're getting a $6,000 credit for having a child, it doesn't mean they're going to get a $6,000 tax refund. So why would you structure it that way if it's really nothing more than a soundbite that sounds good in an election year?
it's just reasonable.
Alrighty then, let's move on to your opponent. As you drove here to our studio today in Pennsylvania, you probably saw a lot of Trump signs on the side of the road. I mean, when you and Joe walked into that fire station on 9/11, no one even acknowledged your presence. But when Trump walked in, he got a huge ovation. In fact, your approval rating was dismally low before the coup, before Biden decided not to run again for re-election. Even Axios reported that you had hit a record low for popularity, with NBC News saying, quote, Harris's net negative rating of -17 is the lowest approval for a vice president in the history of its poll. End quote. How do you explain the rapid about-face Democrats have had as far as their opinion of you since you got the nomination to become president?
I'm supported by over 200 Republicans who worked for both Presidents Bush, John McCain, Mitt Romney. I'm supported by the former Vice President Dick Cheney, former Congress member Liz Cheney.
Well, those are certainly rousing endorsements indeed. Is there anything else before we wrap up that you would like the American public to know about you?
My best friend from kindergarten is still my best friend.
Okay then, thank you so much for joining me today, Madam Vice President. can take off your special earrings now. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it entertaining, but I do need to end on a serious note. We are less than 60 days away from the presidential election. If you are not yet registered to vote, you need to do it immediately. It is our duty as Americans to vote in elections so that we can let our elected officials know exactly what we think about the job that they're doing. I'm Karen Carr, and I approve this message.